Welcome back to MAGA Arizona Agenda 2027 podcast. In this episode, we're talking about education, both at the district level and higher university and college level. I want to improve education quality for students by improving freedom and choice by parents of the type of school their child attends, charter, parochial, or homeschooling. My child, my choice. To improve the quality of universities, we're going to restore merit-based admissions and hiring and focus the degree programs on useful majors for tomorrow's job market. Recent assessments have shown that public schools are failing in that they show over 30% of high school seniors don't have basic reading skills. Since World War II, public spending on public schools has increased 7 times faster than enrollment. Teacher hiring has only increased over double of student enrollment. So where has the money gone? This funding has allowed the public school administrators at the district level to increase their employment by over 7 times student enrollment. International tests comparing American 4th and 8th graders to ones in other countries have shown that not only are we doing worse than East Asians, which has been true for a while, but now we're doing worse than Europeans and even South Africans. Surveys show that over half of Americans, 51%, believe that public schools are going in the wrong direction. And in fact, that's far higher among conservatives. While spending on Arizona public schools has increased 80%, double inflation over the last 10 years. Even with constant enrollment, the results show that reading scores have gone down by 9% and math scores have gone down by 13% in the last 10 years. When comparing charter schools, which work better, to public schools, the charter schools do well enough that it's as if they had an additional 6 days of math instruction and 16 days of reading instruction. They get that much more done in the same number of days. For children who come from a background of poverty, the benefits of charter schools over public schools are even bigger. It's as if a poor kid in a charter school gets an additional 17 days of math and 23 days of reading. Unfortunately, public teachers unions and public school districts have blocked needed reforms to make public schools better, including a meritocratic system for teacher pay, obstruction of school choice and competition with charter schools, and overly politicized instruction in the classroom. Teachers in public schools get their training in universities, but unfortunately, our universities have been corrupted by DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, which have replaced a merit-based capitalistic system with an equal outcome communist-based system and ideology. This has also affected admissions, hiring, and tenure or retention, where they are admitting students and hiring teachers and keeping them based on ideological reasons along with DEI, instead of by the quality of the education that they provide or the quality of the educational background and preparation for university. Unfortunately, most majors in universities aren't preparing students for the jobs of today or the future. Too many are in kind of woke majors that aren't really useful, and there's not enough students going into STEM majors that are useful. The other problem is that most of the first 2 years of education used to be in Western classics that gave you a really good foundation of education, but unfortunately, many of those have been tossed out and replaced by diverse authors of questionable quality, and so the quality of the first 2 years of university education has declined. Studies have shown that the average new hiring in the trades is expected to be over 20 times that of overall hiring, which means we need way more skilled tradesmen, and there'll be expected to be large layoffs in office jobs that can easily be replaced by AI. Recent university graduates in the United States are burdened with, on average, $35,000 in debt, with over $37,000 in debt for Arizona students. Delinquency rates, that is basically students who cannot pay back their student loans for at least 3 months or more, have gone up over 20% for recent graduates. Basically, that's saying over 20% of recent graduates can't get a job that pays them well enough to even pay back their student loans. Forget buying a house and having children and all that. For teens in the foster care system, the challenges are even greater. About a quarter of foster care teens try to commit a suicide by age 17. A quarter don't even graduate high school. And by about 24, only half have gotten a job, and unfortunately about half are addicted to drugs. There are several policy changes we could make to improve education in Arizona and throughout the country. One, reallocate public funding of schools from direct funding to school districts to universal school vouchers given to parents so they can send their child to any school they choose. This should be federal, state, and local funds. Two, we should completely close and abolish the public school system. I'm not sure it can be fixed, and I think the best way to go is to shut down the school districts completely and turn over all their campuses and funding to independent charter schools that would take over these campuses and be run by the parents and the teachers that they hire. Three, I would abolish teachers' unions. Unfortunately, the teachers' unions have chosen to put their interests of their members, even the worst of them, ahead of the students, and have blocked the reforms needed. Therefore, we should abolish teachers' unions. There can still be teachers' associations, but they would no longer have the right to extract dues revenues from all teachers, even those who don't agree with their policies. They would no longer be able to hold strikes, and they could no longer fund politicians who advocate for their agenda against the students. Number four, in order to get the teachers we need with the right educational philosophy, we need to stop requiring that all teachers, or all teachers publicly funded through vouchers, have a teaching credential based on a teaching program at a public university. Unfortunately, those public university teaching programs and credential programs have been corrupted by woke ideology, DEI, and other systems. And we need instead to go back to an independent, traditional, normal school that teaches education for teachers in a more classical way. It would be more like charter schools, but for university education of teachers. Five, we need to focus the education funding at the university and college level to useful programs that teach the people and the skills that we need, and not the woke or DEI majors we don't. Higher education spending and university space for the useful majors like STEM, ROTC programs that teach needed state and local employees like police and other such majors. And finally, we need to shift some money out of universities and into trade school. We need to fund the degrees and the trade schools that will provide the skills we need for the future economy. We need to abolish and outlaw all affirmative action and DEI at public universities and colleges in Arizona, or any college university funded in Arizona. This would also include getting rid of all woke DEI majors. To help those who've already graduated with marginally useful degrees, I would propose some debt forgiveness, but it has to be earned. If they get in the public service, like police, sheriff, state trooper, or say ICE or Border Patrol, then we could offer those students to good employees of the public service some college debt forgiveness. Another way we can solve two problems at once, both the lower birth rates, especially of Americans, and two, student loan debt burden on young people, which often this student loan debt makes them feel like they're unable to afford to have a family, and that's tragic. We can solve those problems by offering student loan debt forgiveness in Arizona for those who get married and have children. For example, say $10,000 per marriage and $10,000 per child. This university and college debt forgiveness would only be for American citizens who are legal residents of Arizona. These boarding school options could offer several different career education tracks: military, policing, medical, nursing and doctor, and also skilled trades. These boarding schools should probably hire retired military, police, medical staff, and skilled tradesmen as the teachers, faculty on campus. Hopefully, these foster teen boarding schools, which educate people both from the federal, state, and local services, could be partially funded by the federal government that we are preparing these students to serve in, like the Department of Defense, Transportation, Health and Human Services, etc. We should also fund more drug rehab centers throughout the state. Unfortunately, even though a lot of youth or adults who do want to kick a drug habit and are willing to go into a drug rehab program are told to wait endlessly on months because of the lack of space, the lack of availability for drug rehab centers. We need to expand those so anybody who wants to go into one can go into one very quickly, say 24 or 48 hours. These boarding schools and drug rehab centers will probably vastly reduce crime, drug dependency, and all the costs that occurs on society in prisons, medical care, and other expenses. Let's have these people go from being tax drains to tax benefits and from having a bad life to a good life. We should add a second military academy for every service in the western U.S. west of the Rockies. Obviously, the Navy would have to be on the Pacific coast, but additional Air Force and Space Force Academy could be located in Arizona, and one of the best possible locations west of the Rockies is actually at the Air Force Base in Tucson. Thank you for watching our episode today on education reform. Please like and subscribe for future episodes. Thank you.